let them redefine us as if politics was just like everything else they say in our society. We're just consumers now. But don't you see, government of, by, and for the people means that the folks who make it up have to come from amongst the people. And that it has to represent the real faith, the real spirit, the real courage, and the real interest of the people themselves. But then there's that middle term, government of the people, by. What does that mean? It means that we've got to do it, y'all.
Yes.
In a society like ours, leadership isn't a consumer good. If you don't produce it, it won't be any good. If it's not made by your hands, then you can't trust it. If it doesn't come from your efforts, then it's not going to serve your good. We must wake up and understand. The media should no longer make our leaders. The money should no longer make our leaders. The corrupt party bosses should no longer make our leaders. We must make them ourselves. But that's not an easy job. I am lifted up today as reports come in from all over the country of folks like yourselves, and they are gathering, and they are letting their hearts be known, and they are letting their voices be known. But you know what I'm wondering? What's going to happen? What's going to happen when the crowd disperses? Are people going to go back and say, well, we did something? Because I've got to tell you, wonderful as I think it is that you're all here, we have not done a thing yet. Until we have come together, until we have joined hands with one another, until we have put together a permanent structure that allows us to decide and us to act together, starting at the very lowest local level that we can find to rebuild our nation from the bottom up. We must take it into our hands, the destiny of America, or they just steal it away. Believe me, it's not going to be easy, because even as was required to build this country, in order to reclaim it, in order to restore its liberty, we are going to have to take some risks, and we're going to have to go through some trouble and difficulties. That's right. The thing they count on is that we have become a people so involved with ourselves, so involved with our own needs and desires, that we're no longer willing to take the chances that are required to be free. But this reminds me of the line with which our national anthem ends. And over the last little while, I've been more than ever struck by the appropriateness of that last phrase. Oh, say, does this star-spangled banner yet wave, o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? You know what's interesting about that? We sing it, we say it. I wonder how often we notice that that's a question. It's not a statement. It's a question that is put to every generation. It's a question that is asked in every moment and in every time of every American. Does that flag still wave over a free people with courage enough to assert and defend their freedom? And that's the question that's being put to all of us right now in this generation. There was a time when I would go about the country saying, if we didn't deal with the problems that face us, if we didn't deal with the problems of fiscal irresponsibility, if we didn't deal with the problems of a lack of political, real leadership for this nation, then we would fail. No, I no longer say that, you see. I no longer say it, y'all, because the will has become the now. We are failing. We are losing this nation. We are betraying its destiny. The instrument that will destroy it has been put in place. That's right. And they stand and ask us now to accept what? To accept that our companies and corporations and enterprises shall henceforth be run by the government and dictated dictated to by someone who calls himself the President of the United States. Well, I'll tell you something. This is not a dictatorship, and we should not tolerate it. Not now, and not ever. Far from letting that flag wave on high, there are those now who wish to tear it down so that it no longer stands proudly amongst the nations of the earth, representing the spirit and hope and destiny of our people on behalf of all mankind. No, they are telling us, as he did when he went off to Europe just now, comes back with an agreement that our companies are now going to be dictated to by some commission composed of European bankers and foreign governments. Since when is it a solution to the problems of the American people to turn our fate over to the very folks we had to spend blood and treasure to save from their own folly twice in the last century? Since when does it make sense to tell the American people that the very folks who went down the stagnant road of socialism, who could not create hope, could not create jobs, when we were filling the world with our prosperity, how can they tell us now that they should control our destiny? It cannot be so unless we are willing to surrender the very identity of our people and the very hope that it is supposed to represent for all the people of the world. But when I say this again, it comes back to us. What are we going to do? Do we really still have the courage that it takes? The courage to say no to their money? You know, it was bad enough. It was bad enough when I used to have to go about telling people that this whole idea that the government does anything for you is a myth. Because at the end of the day, the government doesn't have a single penny in its pocket it didn't take from you in the first place. But now it's gotten worse, you see. Because with their phony lies and their efforts to corrupt us into being a people that will live dependent on government power and government largesse, they pretended that the government had some money that came from somewhere other than our wallets, and that it was going to do something for us. I always thought it wonderful. We accepted this paradigm of politics, you see. We send the money off under a system that violates our most fundamental rights called the income tax. The politicians then decide, and they bring a little back into our towns and our districts, and they say, I've done this for you, and I've done that for you. First political system in the history of the world where people were bribed into submission with their own money by politicians pretending that they got it from somewhere else. Well, the paradigm has changed, darling. We were promised change, and we've gotten change. Because now, instead of just robbing us, they are robbing our children, they are robbing our grandchildren, they are robbing our great-grandchildren, they are looting our treasury down to the black horizon of this nation's future. And I think it is time that we show the willingness as a people to make it clear and to say once and for all that we have the strength to take the burden of our own lives back onto our own backs. To say no to their programs and no to their money and no to their help except for one thing, that they shall now institute a tax system that gives the first use of every dollar we make to us and not to them. That's what we need. If we're to take back control, we got to take back control of the money, and we got to take back control of the courts, and we especially have to take back control of a political system that has become a lying sham of manipulation. That's right. But as I say, the only way to do that is to understand that if you want it done right, you have got to do it yourself. You have got to build a permanent and ongoing convention of the people. We have the tools now. I sometimes marvel at the fact that here we sit in the 21st century, and science and technology have finally caught up with the political ideas on which this country was founded. Have finally invented the tools that allow us to keep in constant touch with each other so that we do not have to depend on the lying media and the lying pundits when we can feel in one another and know from one another how we understand and see what is going on in our nation.